Hello, everybody, and welcome to Com 322 Argumentation here in my non-office, but place that you're probably familiar in seeing by now. I cannot wait to get back on campus. Can I tell you that? I just can't wait. So I hope you had a good Thanksgiving, and right before you left, you took an exam. That was exam two. And I hope you kept up with your reading for no other reason than just that's where your entire test three is going to come from. It is going to come 100% from the book. Now, none of you have actually provided any questions that you needed answered or anything. And I'm hoping that means that you're getting everything that you need to get out of the book. If you would like me to do sort of a summary lecture on the last three chapters, which is argumentation in law, argumentation in business, and argumentation in relationships, I'm more than willing to do that. I think right now, today, what I'd like to focus on, however, is what we're supposed to be doing this week. And what we are doing this week and in the next week is academic debate. And the reason why I want to talk about that is because it's important to me that you understand the difference between academic debate, the debate that we sort of study, argument structure we sort of study, and what happens in the public sphere. Now, some of you might be going, well, yeah, we already get that. We understand there's a big difference. But I want to talk about how that actually plays out. So let's go there. Academic debate, for those of you who don't know, is an extremely formal form of debate. It's got a lot of rules and regulations that go along with it, and generally only occurs at the level of academics in schools, literally, and obviously in universities. This is not something that a lot of people do external from that. There are very few exceptions, if any at all. It is an international study. So it's not just American, uniquely American, which I think a lot of people believe that it is, but it's not. One of the first books to ever be translated into any other language was a book called Argumentation and Debate, not really a difficult topic or a title really. And that book was actually written by a guy who coached me. And it was the first one that was actually translated. It was translated into Japanese. And so when I was in college, I had the opportunity, because I was a member of the debate team, to debate the Japanese debaters. And it's fascinating to debate people whose first language is not English, but who are able to debate within the confines of the rules and understand the language so well that they really debate very, very well. And part of my problem back then was understanding that debate has its own language. Let me rephrase. Academic debate has its own language. Now, my mom, whenever I used to do something she didn't like, she used to say to me, "Don't pull that debate crap on me." And I was always like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not pulling debate crap. I'm just showing you the flaws in your argument, right? I mean, who doesn't love pointing out a fallacy whenever there is one? We love to do that. But people who are not involved in academic or formal debate, and by the way, it's not the same as a lawyer. It's not the same as a courtroom, but it's at least a little bit closer. So my father, who was a debater and a lawyer, understood a little bit better. But you can't sort of throw these rules and regulations at people in the public sphere and expect them to understand or be able to respond to you properly. Why? How does that work? Well, one of the reasons why this is so problematic goes back to, I think, an example I may have provided to you when we were talking about syllogisms. You go all the way back to Aristotle, you go all the way back to deductive reasoning, and you get the syllogism. And in the syllogism, of course, it's just a proof, right? It's just proving that the conclusion is true. That's all it is. It's not an actual argument, okay? It doesn't involve the kind of reasoning that is needed in order to make a claim that is supported by, a certain amount of evidence. For example, as you know, the syllogism has the three parts, major premise, minor premise, and the conclusion. And you say, all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. And the example I would use is that most people don't talk like that. Okay, so for example, we don't talk about, hey, it's almost noon. I had breakfast at like 8 this morning. I am feeling not so well. My stomach is sort of grumbling, which I think is an indicator that it's empty, and therefore I should probably eat something. And you may or may not be ready to eat. I was just wondering, do you want to go get some lunch? We don't go through all that, do we? We say jeet jet and then we move on, and of course that makes more sense. Of course we take these shortcuts. Of course we talk to people in the colloquial form, not in the academic format of a debate. When you're analyzing an argument, it's hard to separate yourself from that formal academic way of looking at debate, the way we've been studying it for the past 14 weeks. It's hard to break away from that because you want to say, hey, listen, let me show you where your flaw is. Let me show you why your reasoning doesn't work. Let me explain why your data isn't enough to support the claim you think you're making. Let me show you. And people who haven't studied argument formally don't understand what you're saying. We as academics have to find a way to communicate with the public sphere, in the public sphere, that makes sense to them. It has to make clear sense to them. And that doesn't mean we dumb down our conversation. It means we use their language. So instead of saying, hey, listen, you don't have enough data, your warrant doesn't support your claim, and until you can explain to me specifically why your data supports your claim and give me a clear warrant, your argument's terrible. That's not going to get there. But if you say the evidence that you have does not seem to support your argument, and I'm going to need more explanation of that, they may understand that. They may. I'm not even guaranteeing that they will, because not always do people understand this. Probably one of the biggest differences that I've experienced, aside from my mother when I was younger, is, as some of you know, I've been going and fighting with the school board here in Nixa about banning books. And obviously, when you're fighting about that, you're not just fighting with the school board. You're not just fighting with people who know the language that you're using and know what you're talking about. You're trying to convince everybody who's in the room, and that includes all these parents who may not have been trained academically, which is totally fine, by the way. We have to learn how to speak with others, just as they learn to speak with us. It's not our job to tell somebody how to speak or what to say or how to learn when they are different from us, or speak in literally a different sort of rhetorical environment than we do. And making my argument clear to people who do not come from the same position that I do, just on the very basic level of language, is extremely difficult. It's difficult for me to understand what other people need to hear in order to be persuaded by my argument. And in academic debate, I get to use all of those fancy words and very strategic line-by-line argumentation to say, here's where your argument fails. And that's nice, when I'm able to say, this is what is failing. The warrant in this argument is failing. The link to this disadvantage is failing, and so on and so forth. That's easy. Can't do that in the real world. So the world of academic debate is very different from the world of the public sphere and debate in the public sphere. And I really want to focus on that, which is why you're going to get the assignment that you're going to get to wrap up this class. Now, I promised you that in this video, I would tell you everything that we have to do to finish out the class for the last 2 weeks. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So first things first, you all know that you have a final exam. Now, that final exam is not comprehensive in the sense that I will focus on what the book tells us about argumentation in these different contexts: relational, legal, political, etc. So the test is literally going to be just a book test. You don't have to memorize. Remember, you can have the book right in front of you. So you will have a week to take that test again. All right. Just as always, same format, multiple choice, possibly some short answer. Okay. The next thing that we have to finish up is discussion board posts, of which we were supposed to have, I think, like 10. And I'm pretty sure I've had like 2, which isn't necessarily bad, by the way, because whenever I do something like that, where I say, okay, I'm going to have you participate in a certain way, and then I don't get that out to you, I have a tendency to just say, well, you would have gotten a perfect score on it. So let's not worry about that. So I will go through and look at that. The next thing is participation. If you've done your work, you're going to get the participation points. And then finally, last but not least, I told you that there was this explication that would be coming up by the end of the semester, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with that, but I think I know what I'm going to do with it now. Here's what I would like you to do. I would like you to take an argument that you see in the public sphere, something that we all can access. I don't care if it's an argument a movie makes, an argument that an advertisement makes, an argument that you've read in a book, any of those, a political debate. Take your choice, make whatever claim you want. I want you to take that, and I want you to write an argument for it, one way or another, for or against. I don't care which way you make the argument. First, utilizing the academic structure of claim, data, warrant, backing, why am I missing something here? Rebuttal and the modifier. There we go. Those 6 parts from Toulmin that we use in academic debate. I want you to fill that out and let me know whether or not the argument could be successful or not. And then I want you to write me a brief paragraph about how you might present that in the public sphere. So you've read about how to make an argument formally, that is in form only. And you've also read about these different contexts in which argumentation occurs. And so I'm sort of wanting you to blend those 2 things. And so instead of the explication, or as your explication assignment, this is what I'd rather have you do. So the first part of the 6 parts of an argument by Stephen Toulmin and your argument is just sort of a fill in the, plug and play. What's the claim? What's the data? What's the warrant, etc. But the second part is a paragraph where you make the argument as if you're writing it in the public sphere to those who would understand it. I hope that's fairly clear. I can probably put up a sample for you if you would like, and I can do that by the end of today. That assignment is not due until next Friday, so you have a full week to do it. That would be December 9th. So 1 week from today, like I say, I always give you at least a week. This is not a huge assignment, I don't think. And it shouldn't take you an excessive amount of time. So if you find yourself like writing 10 pages or being excessively, trapped with this assignment, please let me know, because something's not quite going right. And if you'll let me know all that, I will go ahead and we'll wrap up the semester and we'll be done. So we're coming around to it quick. We should wrap up nicely. And I will, if I need to, post something on the discussion board for you, which would be more of a opinion question. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you to fill out your online review of me for this class, your teacher evaluation forms. I ask you to fill those out. I have never taught this class. I have never taught this class online. So it's been an experiment for me as well as you. And I know a lot of it was, here, read this book. It's a handbook. And I don't know how helpful that is to you. So please, in the teacher evaluation, let us know about that. Meanwhile, I will be in touch again before the end of the semester, but we're ready to wrap up. All right. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, as always, please let me know. and I will see you next week.